Hey guys, I hope you guys have had a great week. I'm taking this time to kind of post something that's a little overdue now. It's been a couple weeks now actually since I had the opportunity to extract my uncapped payout with Apex. So I actually wanted to talk about and share my experience with Apex from start to finish, how it's kind of shaped me as a trader over the course of time. Well, also kind of just letting you guys get to know me a little bit more as well, right? And I guess I'll start off by saying that, like, for those who don't know, outside of trading, and believe it or not, trading is not my full-time thing. It's not the main thing that I do. Yes, it pays well. But for me, life is more than money, and this is speaking from a person who grew up with very little. And so I won't dig into too deep of who I was starting up, but all I can say is that I grew up with a single mother out here where I live, and she raised us while also still having challenges with mental illness and all that other things as well, right? So, to say the least, it was not an easy upbringing for myself, both mental challenges at home, but also we didn't have anything, right? Like, I was that kid growing up and wearing the same clothes to school every day, getting bullied. And like, even for food wise, we'd be lucky if we had dinner on the table sometimes, right? So, anyways, I won't dive too deep into that, but I just want to just share that part because I think it's important for those out there to understand like where I come from when I speak on the topic of money. I don't come from a place of privilege. I don't come from a place of where money came easy for me. I understand that every dollar counts, every penny counts, and it goes a long way. And so I'll probably save the whole biography of who I am for another day. Um, but I want to establish that, right? And so with that, like I said, day trading isn't everything for me because I personally find more joy in helping people more than anything else. Because for me, I've been fortunate enough to have met some great people in my life that have been mentors to me who have shaped my life and shaped my career path, right? And so much of my success I owe to that. When I think about my career path in my corporate world, when I think about my career path in trading, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am if not for those mentors that guided me along the way. And again, like I said, I'll dive more deeper into those another day. But on the trading front, I obviously, as always, want to give a shout out. Where my journey began was with Stock Market Wolf. And that's kind of where I began my grounds and figured out what trading even was. And at the time, small caps was what I was learning because that was his big thing at the time too. This was before he moved on to trading options. And the individual that I have spent the most time with and have the utmost respect for, just due to our relatability, is Rake Trades, known as Jake Ricci. He has been a big part of my career up in trading and have been the foundation to everything I do today. Of course, I've evolved who I am and how I trade, but I would never forget where I came from and what had started this journey all for me. So I want to just lay that out there. I also want to note, and I bear with, is that I appreciate those who have been following me, those have been supporting the journey, because I know my videos are not edited in a high quality way, because this is not my forte. I've got a mic, I got a camera, and I'm just recording off of whatever app my computer came with. So yeah, I don't have those flashy graphics and those little things that kind of keep the audience more engaged, but I'm hoping that the content that I'm providing is still valuable nevertheless for you all. So yeah, I'm gonna get started here. I will share a couple of screenshots and things like stats and like accounts just to show the transparency of Apex and all that. But I do want to speak on something first, and that's relating to just some of the key learnings. So I want to talk about copy trading. I want to talk about the cost of accounts that, the money that's required to invested into Apex, my perspective on what prop firms can do, both in a good way and in a bad way. And honestly, also how Apex kind of taught me, like Apex, and I would say even Take Profit Trader has taught me how to evolve as a trader in my style as well. So those are kind of the main topics that I want to go over, but I did want to show you some stats as well while I'm doing this. So just give me 1 second, bear with me here. Um, Screen two, there you go. I'm hoping this shows properly on your guys' end here. I'm showing my trading calendar for the month. So this is unrelated to Apex, but this is just how the month is going so far. And so just to quickly show you here, this is things can be kind of glitchy lately, but win rate right now, I'm on the high 70 percentile. You can see my best days, largest wins, profit factor, all that type of stuff. So these are the stats for the course of this month so far. And then on the trading calendar wise, you can see here the winning days and the losing days. Those who have been following me long enough know I always talk about the fact that just because there was a winning day doesn't mean it was a win. There weren't any losing trades in it. right? So there's a lot of those factors to keep into account. You might see, for those who've been following long enough, that these dollars are also lower than what they've used to seeing. I've taken it a lot easier this month, and that might likely be the case for the remainder of the year, mainly because I am focusing more on coaching and helping people now. As I mentioned earlier, I find it more fulfilling helping people more than anything else. And even in my main profession as a business consultant, I love helping entrepreneurs. It's so fulfilling to be able to see small business owners thrive, especially during tough economic times, and knowing that I was able to play some form of hand in that growth, right? And so that's why I am going to be spending more of my time on trading mentorships. I'm not looking for large audiences. Those who attended my first mentorship know I intentionally kept the group very small. And I'm hoping to keep that way as well as I continue to grow and grow the cohort as well. So anyways, these are some stats I want to share. Like again, like you can see, nothing different. My consistency is still there. And if you go through the prior months as well, you'll see very similar. Missing some data in this month. I'm not really too sure what happened in my month of June, but those who knew I had a really big month then as well. But you can kind of get a sense that this is normal. This is not unusual for me, right? And so going into that, like I said, I want to talk about the whole learning lesson of things, right? So I am gonna kind of stop sharing for a second here, and I will share the accounts again later on. Um, but copy trading. So I attempted copy trading for the first time with Apex because of the amount of leverage that you can take. And I will say I probably made the same mistake that many have made in the past. During their deals, 80% off, 90% off, I bought like a crap ton of them, right? And I copy traded all of them, 20 accounts. And I remember that experience really, really vividly because it really showed me that I mentally don't have the capacity, at least today, to copy trade at that magnitude. And maybe there's some nuances and refinements that could have helped that, but I'm just sharing my very, current experience and feeling with it. And that was that when I copied those traded those 20 accounts and those evals, right? It was great to see when I was able to get those wins, right? But I blew those 20 accounts fairly quickly, right? Like less than a week, I blew those 20 accounts. And it was because of the fact that, although it's great to be able to say, oh, you know what, when I copied your 20, I get a win, I win on all 20 accounts. That's great. But I found that psychologically, I couldn't take the loss as well. Like losing on 20 accounts was very hard. And understand that as I say this, losing is part of the game. It's part of learning. And normally, when I'm losing one account at a time, it really doesn't affect me as much because I understand that it's just a matter of probability, and it's just part of the game. But when I saw the losing on 20 counts, it was just different, and it hit really differently for me, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I think that I did that a couple of times, copy trading 20 counts and blowing them, copy 20 trading counts and blowing them. And although yes, the accounts were cheap, because again, for those who don't know, when you buy their accounts when they're like 90% off, their accounts are basically $16. So they're not a lot. To give you perspective, like 100 evals, right? So like imagine if you were to buy 20 accounts and blow them five times. So five times 20, 100 accounts, right? That's $1,667. Now, again, that's still a lot of money, right? I'm not saying that's not a lot, but if you were to buy 100 accounts anywhere else, it would cost you way more than that amount, right? So I think it's important for me to highlight and capture that because I think that is going to be a part of the perspective component that I'm going to speak to a little bit later on. And then in regard to that as well, when I think about PAs and accounts, there was a point where I did copy trade those 20 accounts and I passed them actually, right? And so again, the pressure was on again because the fact that I passed those 20 accounts, the pressure was on not to blow them. But and eventually I did end up blowing those accounts. It did end up happening. And so that was also a very shitty feeling, right? And so again, it just this experience so essentially solidified to me that copy trading is just very difficult psychologically for me, right? And so I'll show you really quickly here, and this is where I'll share my screen again. Give me one second here. So here you can see here that these are my PA. So I obviously blacked out my accounts here because I don't want to share that, but for those who do not know, the last two digits here basically represent the number of accounts that you've taken so far at that point in time, right? So that means like if you see 34, it means I've had up to 34 PAs, right? That's what that represents. So I got like again, right out of the gates, I had 20 PAs and I blew them all, right? So that easily already accounted for much of my blown accounts in that regard. And you'll see here that I got denied my payouts for the first little while. And then honestly, I'll tell you right now, it's not for the reasons you think. I know there's this weird thing out there about how like, Apex intentionally denies payouts. To be perfectly honest, every time I followed the rules the way that it comes, I've never had any issues with payouts. Is there a delay on approval sometimes? Yeah, it could take a little while, but I've never been denied a payout when the rules are being followed. And I really want to emphasize that because that I think that's important for people to know. And when these payouts were denied, they were for legitimate reasons, right? By the time that I got to this stage of trading Apex, I already had a mentality of I want to build a buffer because there's a rule that they have, like the 30% rule, where a trade cannot breach 30% of your P&L in the same way that a winning trade, when you can't, basically a 30% consistency rule would apply the same. And for me, I just didn't want to deal with the challenges that came with that. So for the first few payouts, I just honestly just kept trading. I kept trading and kept trading to just build the float up so that I had a large enough balance for me to not worry that if I were to fail a trade with one mini or two mini, that would breach my ability to get a payout. So that was a part of my strategy was to build that up. So when you see that those what is it, one, two, three, and four. Those four payouts, yeah, they got denied. I was honestly just focused on building the float. By the time that I got to my technically first payout ever on this account, which was trading day number 41, which is kind of insane when you think about that, obviously, right? But at that stage, my account was already north of $30,000, right? And so it just became a lot easier to trade that balance. Again, maybe different for different people, but I'm just sharing my experience. Now, before I continue talking about the account that led me to my uncapped payout, um, I want to talk about account number 27. So this was actually a big learning lesson for me. And like this is the reason why much of the tilt prevention rules and systems I've developed for myself are what they are. They are a product of my experiences. For those who followed have known that I had traveled to Asia earlier this year, back in March and April, I think it was. Um, and so I was trading and trading abroad, and I was doing very well. I was having super big success with Tradeify, with Top Step. Um, and so during that time, I was thinking, okay, what better time to, let's just loop in Apex and all that stuff as well, right? And one of the trades, again, this account number 27, it burnt me pretty hard. And I remember I had to take a break for a little while because it was very tough on the mentals, and I'll explain why. This was a 250K PA that I had, and I had built up a hefty size actually over the course of my trip in Asia. I think the account balance was roughly between 34 to $39,000 up until this point. And you can see that in that account, I did receive one payout. Um, here in the early stages, which was the 3,000. This other one was because I broke the 30% rule. But then after that, I did end up blowing the account. And this is what happened. And it was really hard. This is probably why I'm big on trading environment. I was actually in Singapore's airport and I was waiting for a flight to go to Hong Kong. And I was in one of the lounges at the time, and the Wi-Fi crapped out on me. I was in the middle of a trade and I was scalping too. So I was higher size than I normally would be, right? I think it was like seven contracts or eight contracts or something like that. And those were minis, okay? I was actually in a winning trade. So I got in, right? And I had a good move right away within like 2 minutes. It was lucky, right? That part was luck. The technicals was the setup, but the way that it moved was pure luck. And I was looking to close it out, but then I lost connection. And so I was frantic, and my wife saw this all too because it was very difficult for me to go through that. I was panicking, I was trying to figure it out, and like I could not connect to a network. I tried connecting to the airport's public network, didn't work either. And honestly, I there was nothing I could have done. At that point in time, I had to board my flight, right? By the time that I could even connect to the airline's network, which was, again, for those who travel know, you can't connect to the Wi-Fi, the paid Wi-Fi, until you actually get into the air, right? My account had already been blown. That was very hard to digest. That was one of those accounts that could have, led me into the uncapped phase, which could have been worth so much to me. And that's a lot of money, right? The account itself may have not costed me as much, but the potential there would have cost me a lot. The lesson learned here was understanding your trading environment. As much as you might be addicted to the craft, and I am, right? We need to understand there are times where trading just might not be the right thing for us based on where we are and what situation you're in. Maybe you're in the middle of an argument with someone. Maybe you're dealing with some tough work environment situations. Maybe you're on the go, right? I think for myself, I've kind of learned that if I want to take A plus setups, if I want to size into trades, I will never ever do that when I'm on the go. I will always take that when I'm at my desk, when I'm at peace, when I have less distractions. That was a very hard lesson to learn. And I will never do that again. And I'm sharing this as an experience because I think it's important for all of us as traders to understand which environment we like to trade in and what works for us best so that we ensure that we could be our best selves when we're on the market. The market is hard enough already as it is. To layer in other factors only make it that much harder. So I wanted to really share that because yeah, that was a big factor for me and it was hard. It was a tough lesson to learn. With that, as you can see, I'll go into talking about the accounts. You can see that I did get my payouts back to back, back to back, back to back as it was going. And up until the 89th day, trading day, and I have about 94 trading days on this account right now because I don't really touch it anymore. But um, I took my $80,000 payout. And for me, I had a choice to make when I got to this stage. Keep more buffer in so I can keep trading and try to get more of a payout, or just take it. And for me personally, I want to take it for a lot of reasons. I think I wanted to be able to take it in and celebrate this milestone of me as a day trader because I never thought that I would be able to get to this stage at this speed of time and trading, right? So I didn't want to risk holding on to that and potentially blowing the account because that is inevitable. Things happen. I don't know. I can't predict what will happen, but I just want to protect myself, right? And so I took the $80,000 payout, which is my largest one-time payout ever with any prop firm at any point in my trading career. So, I mean, so for those again who are skeptical with Apex, I mean, again, like I said, if you can follow the rules, you can play by it, and you've got the skill to copy trade, the amount of leverage that you have to get massive payouts is insane. But the discipline is really the hardest part. So often, more than not, I don't really blame the prop firms. I look at it as, we self-sabotage ourselves a lot, right? And I think that plays a big factor in that. Now, don't get me wrong, prop firms have rules. And for a lot of prop firms, the rules might not work well with your trading style. And if that's the case, then that's a different lesson to learn, right? And I think that's important for you to understand. So if intraday trailing drawdown and consistency rules or whatever that may be might not to be your liking, then that's okay. Go find a prop firm that works for you. I think that's important, right? It's not always about the cheapest prop firm that's going to work for you, but the one that fits your mold as a trader the best. That's going to work best for you. Again, all speaking from personal experience. Someone else can totally disagree, and that's okay, right? The thing I want to talk also about, and I'll stop screen sharing this part now, is perspective, right? When it comes to perspective, I talk about this a lot in business. I talk about the quadrant of effort, which kind of speaks on low effort, low return, low effort, high effort, high return, and high effort, low return. And so I think what sometimes when we as day traders, we fall into the rut of when we have a cheap account, like a 90% off Apex account for 16 bucks, we look at that, it's a low investment. So that's okay. It's a low investment. So I'll just take my time. I'll take it easy, no pressure or anything like that. What if it wasn't though? What if it wasn't a low cost account? What if it was a $200 account or a $500 account? Would you trade as recklessly? I think that perspective is important. We should absolutely take advantage of what the prop firms offer us, which is leverage of capital dollars at a very low cost to us, right? But we need to treat it as if it is worth a lot more than what we paid for it. Because if we don't respect the money, then the byproduct of that is going to be blown accounts, right? And so I just think that's important to share because I think even for myself, when I think about the copy trading and all that, that's how why it's so easy to fall victim to it, is because the accounts are so cheap, you don't take it seriously enough, and then you just end up blowing them. And you're like, oh, it's okay, I'll just buy another 20, and then another 20, and then another 20. And then you just look at your bank account like, holy shit, how did I spend so much? What happened here, right? So again, I just think that's just the perspective that I want to share, and I think that's important for us. Because just like when we trade the markets, when there's an R multiple of 1R, 2R, 3R, same goes with prop firm capital. What's your R capital for prop firm trading? Because I'll tell you right now, right, the difference between like trading with Top Step, and this was a moment in time for me. It was in May. I was doing this math, so I have to do the math again as of recent. But in May, when I did the math, I was like, my funded futures was where I started my trading. So meaning I'd blown the most accounts. So even though, yes, I got a total live payout, or not live payout, sorry, a total lifetime payout of 50,000 to get capped to move to live, I spent a lot of money. I spent probably 30 some thousand. And you might think like, wow, that's a lot of money to spend. Like, where'd you get this money? Well, it was a process of getting paid out and then blowing them. Getting paid out and then blowing them. So it was kind of like I was cycling the money I was making back into the prop firm again, right? And so that R multiple is not the greatest, right? I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up being break even with my fund of futures in that regard. But by the time that I started layering in different prop firms, Fund of Futures Family, Tradeify, Top Step, my R multiple of cost of investment of those firms to my payout became excessively different, right? At the time when I came back from Asia, and I remember telling some of my students and colleagues this, was that the amount I got paid off from Top Step, because I had 5 accounts and I had maximum payouts 4 times on all five. So that if you think about it, that's 5 accounts times 5,000, which is 25,000, right? Times four is 100,000. That's $100,000 in payout over the course of like a couple months, which is insane if you think about it, right? And my cost of investment to those accounts through, again, same thing, blowing them and funding them and blowing them and funding them was, I think it was like a little under $28,000, right? So when you think about it, the R multiple on that is massive, right? That's a 4R, basically a 4R. So if you say you invested 25,000 to make $100,000, that's a pretty solid investment, all things considered, right? Again, I just want to share that because I think that's the stuff that people don't talk enough about. It's great to get paid out, of course. Don't get me wrong, right? But it doesn't mean anything if you're spending more than you put it. Like, sorry, if you're spending in more than you're receiving, then you're stuck in a cycle, right? And that's not ideal. So that's another thing that I want to kind of share. And then I think the last thing that I really want to talk about here was just the evolution, right? So intraday trailing, obviously my original style of trading of holding my positions, it doesn't bode too well with intraday trailing drawdown. Unless I'm trading with like super, super, super small size, it just doesn't work for me. And so because I trade with minis, I obviously require some breathing space. So I actually had to force myself to learn how to scalp the market, which is something that I didn't really do prior to Apex and Take Profit Trader and any other intraday trailing drawdown account. So because of that, I have found a new style of trading in which will flex in depending on the markets I trade. I do trade Asia, London, and New York. So depending on like what I'm trading, what account I'm trading, I will scalp and I'm open to that, right? Many times when I trade the Asia session or London session, I will trade 3 to 5 minis, which is a lot. That's a lot of size, right? I'm okay because I'm only getting in and out. I'm scalping for 5 to 10 points, which is about like 1 R, right? Depending on obviously your risk and on the trade, right? But that's a lot still, because if you think about it, if I could do 5 minis with 10 points, that's $1,000. That's a lot of money, right? So again, really contingent and really conditional. It really depends on the situation. But now I have that as a skill set to my arsenal where I can scalp the market where it makes sense for me, and I'll hold the market with smaller size where it makes sense to me as well. So there's just some 2 cents in the topic of this, but yeah. Anyways, I know it's been a long awaited, but the getting paid out with Apex has been an amazing journey. And so if you guys have any questions at all, obviously feel free to give me a shout and ask questions. I'm more than happy to provide some thought points and sharing in terms of trading Apex and what my advice would be on that. But also something I want to share is that I am going to be doing some giveaways here. So stay tuned. If you haven't already, like my video, subscribe. The next video that I put out will be focused on not sorry, not focused on. It will be with giveaways. So I will be doing giveaways with Apex accounts, and they will be about I think 1 or 2 accounts, and it'll be any size accounts for free. So again, stay tuned. That'll be my next thing that I'll post. I just got to get some things working order on my end to get that set up so I can provide that to the community. But that will be the next thing that's coming out. Okay? Sounds great. I will see you guys around. Thanks for tuning in, guys.